Have you ever stopped to wonder if true happiness lies not in the presence of others, but within yourself? It's a thought-provoking question, especially in a world that often celebrates constant interaction, social validation, and external success. We're told that joy comes from the connections we build and the company we keep. But what if that's only part of the picture? As Buddha wisely said, peace comes from within, do not seek it without. This profound truth invites us to shift our focus inward. Imagine finding fulfillment not in the chaos and noise of the external world, but in the quiet stillness of your own heart. It's a radical idea, yet one that holds immense power. The more you chase joy in others, the more you risk overlooking the profound treasure of your own presence. In today's video, we'll delve into 7 transformative lessons that reveal the joy of being with yourself. These lessons aren't about withdrawing from the world or rejecting relationships. Instead, they're about discovering the strength and serenity that come from embracing solitude. Far from loneliness, solitude is a space where your thoughts, emotions, and dreams can breathe freely. By the end of this journey, you'll see how solitude can be your greatest ally, not something to fear, but a gift to cherish. Whether you're seeking clarity, peace, or simply a deeper understanding of yourself, these lessons will guide you toward an empowered, self-sufficient sense of joy. So let's dive in and uncover the beauty of enjoying your own company. Along the way, you may find that the key to lasting happiness was never about others, but about learning to love and appreciate the incredible person you already are. 1. Embrace solitude over foolish company. In a modern world that thrives on constant connection, we are often urged to surround ourselves with people, friends, family, colleagues, and acquaintances. The pressure to be social, to be busy, to be part of every conversation or event can sometimes feel overwhelming. We live in an era where connectivity is a virtue, where the more people we know, the more valuable we are deemed to be. But in this whirlwind of external distractions and ever-present social interactions, we often forget the profound wisdom of choosing solitude. Buddhism, with its deep emphasis on mindfulness and personal growth, teaches us that being selective with our company is not only wise, but necessary for mental and spiritual development. In fact, solitude can be a transformative tool, offering a space of peace and clarity in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. The hidden value of solitude. The world constantly urges us to be surrounded by others. Social media platforms encourage us to connect with as many people as possible. Social circles grow larger, but the connections often grow shallower. We are continually exposed to the noise of the world, people's opinions, news, distractions, and the demands of others. In such an environment, it is easy to lose sight of ourselves, to forget what we truly need, what we truly want, and what truly matters. This constant bombardment can leave us feeling mentally cluttered and spiritually disconnected. Yet in solitude, there is a quiet wisdom. It's in solitude that we can hear the voice of our inner selves, free from the distractions of the outside world. Buddhism teaches that solitude is not loneliness. It is a sacred space where we reconnect with our true nature. It is through solitude that we can strip away the layers of superficiality that come with being in constant company and return to what is essential. In Buddhism, solitude is seen as a way to cultivate clarity and mindfulness. When we remove ourselves from the noise of the world, we allow space for self-reflection, for understanding our deepest desires, fears, and aspirations. Solitude doesn't just mean being physically alone. It's about creating an environment where you are free to look inward, to contemplate, and to grow without the influence of external distractions. The influence of company on our growth. The company we keep has a profound impact on our mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Negative or unwise company can hinder our growth, sow seeds of doubt, and draw us into unproductive behaviors. We may find ourselves influenced by the fears, insecurities, or misguided beliefs of those around us. Whether it's in casual conversations, social gatherings, or even in relationships, being surrounded by people who are focused on trivial matters or who feed into negativity can derail us from our path to personal development. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of wise companionship, or kalyanamitta. The Buddha taught that the people we surround ourselves with should be those who inspire us, challenge us to grow, and encourage us to walk the path of wisdom. When we spend time with people who are focused on material pursuits, who gossip, who complain, or who indulge in harmful behaviors, we risk adopting those same attitudes and patterns. On the other hand, when we choose solitude, we remove ourselves from these distractions and harmful influences. We create the space to reflect on our true values and desires, to clarify our goals, and to realign ourselves with our deeper sense of purpose. We are no longer swayed by the opinions and behaviors of others. Instead, we have the freedom to cultivate a sense of inner peace and clarity. Solitude, the space for growth. True wisdom emerges when we are no longer distracted by the chaos of unproductive social interactions. Solitude offers us the chance to be alone with our thoughts, without the noise of the outside world clouding our judgment. It is in these quiet moments that we can cultivate wisdom, clarity, and self-awareness. One of the greatest gifts of solitude is the ability to strengthen our inner voice. In the absence of external influences, we can hear the quiet whispers of our own intuition. This inner voice is a powerful guide. It helps us discern what is right for us, what we truly value, and what we need in our lives. Without solitude, this voice can be drowned out by the opinions and expectations of others. But when we make space for ourselves, when we honor our need for quiet and reflection, we allow our inner voice to grow stronger, clearer, and more authoritative. This is why solitude is not just a temporary respite from the demands of life, but a powerful tool for personal growth. In solitude, we develop the courage to face our fears, to confront our weaknesses, and to engage in deep self-inquiry. It is through solitude that we learn to cultivate patience, discipline, and self-compassion. We begin to understand that true growth does not come from external validation or approval, but from an internal commitment to becoming the best version of ourselves. The choice between being alone and being in bad company. It is often said, it's better to be alone than to be in bad company. In today's world, this saying holds particular wisdom. Many people remain in unfulfilling relationships or friendships because they fear the discomfort of solitude or the stigma associated with being alone. Yet, being in bad company can be far more detrimental to our well-being than being alone. When we surround ourselves with people who are negative, critical, or unkind, we absorb their energy, whether consciously or unconsciously. We may find ourselves engaging in negative thought patterns, adopting unproductive habits, or getting drawn into unnecessary drama. Over time, this can weigh heavily on our emotional and mental health, leaving us feeling drained, confused, or disconnected from our true selves. On the other hand, solitude offers a different kind of nourishment. It is in solitude that we find space to rest, to heal, and to renew our energy. When we are alone, we are not bound by the expectations or judgments of others. We have the freedom to explore our thoughts, to relax our mind, and to create the conditions necessary for personal growth. The key, however, is to embrace solitude intentionally. It is not about isolating ourselves in fear or bitterness, but about choosing solitude as a space for self-care and reflection. It is about understanding that sometimes being alone is necessary to clear the clutter of external distractions and reconnect with our deeper purpose. Solitude as a path to clarity and peace. One of the greatest benefits of solitude is the clarity it brings. In a world full of noise, it can be difficult to discern what is truly important. We may find ourselves caught up in the demands of work, the pressures of social media, or the expectations of others. But when we take the time to be alone, we create the space needed to sort through the noise and gain clarity on what truly matters. In solitude, we can evaluate our lives with fresh eyes. We can ask ourselves the difficult questions. Are we on the right path? Are we living in alignment with our values? Are our relationships supporting our growth, or are they holding us back? Solitude allows us to slow down, to reflect, and to reorient ourselves toward what is most meaningful. Finally, solitude offers us a profound sense of peace. In the stillness of being alone, we find rest for our minds and souls. The world may be chaotic, but in our moments of solitude, we can experience a deep inner calm, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. This inner peace is the foundation for true happiness. It is the peace that comes from knowing ourselves, from accepting ourselves fully, and from trusting the wisdom that arises from within. Conclusion: the transformative power of solitude. In a world that often prizes connection over introspection, solitude may seem counterintuitive, yet it is through solitude that we find the space for true growth. 3. Overcoming the fear of being alone. In a world that often equates social connection with personal worth, the fear of loneliness can be a powerful and overwhelming feeling. From an early age, we are taught that being alone is undesirable, something to be avoided at all costs. Our society places a high value on relationships, social approval, and external validation, leaving little room for the idea that solitude can be a source of strength and personal growth. Many of us fear being alone because we associate loneliness with emptiness or a lack of fulfillment. But in Buddhism, this fear of loneliness is seen not as something to run from, but as an opportunity to embrace, learn from, and ultimately transcend. Buddhism offers a radical shift in perspective. Loneliness can be a doorway to self-awareness, emotional resilience, and deep spiritual growth. Rather than seeing solitude as a weakness or a form of suffering, Buddhist teachings invite us to view it as a space for self-reflection, healing, and the cultivation of inner peace. Far from being an indication of something missing in our lives, solitude can reveal that we are already whole and complete. The fear of loneliness is rooted in the illusion that we need others to complete us. However, when we face and overcome this fear, we uncover the truth that our true power, strength, and happiness lie within ourselves. Reframing. Loneliness, from fear to opportunity. At the heart of the fear of loneliness is the misconception that we are incomplete without the company of others. We often feel that we need constant interaction, external validation, or companionship to feel fulfilled. The pressure to fit in or to always be surrounded by people can become overwhelming, and the thought of being alone can bring about anxiety or a sense of isolation. But Buddhism teaches us that this fear is based on a misunderstanding of who we truly are. Buddha himself emphasized the importance of self-reliance and inner peace. In the Dhammapada, one of the most revered texts in Buddhism, it is said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This simple yet profound teaching reminds us that we are not dependent on others for our sense of self-worth. Solitude is not a sign of inadequacy, but an invitation to develop a deeper connection with ourselves. When we spend time alone, we are given the opportunity to confront the parts of ourselves that we often avoid. In the stillness of solitude, we can reflect on our emotions, fears, and desires. We begin to recognize that being alone does not mean being incomplete. It simply means we are free from the distractions and external pressures that often cloud our sense of self. We come to understand that we are whole as we are, without needing anyone else to define or validate us. The power of solitude, becoming comfortable with your own presence. Solitude is a practice in learning to be comfortable with your own company. Many people are afraid of being alone because they fear the discomfort that arises when there is no external noise to distract them. In solitude, we are faced with our own thoughts and emotions, both the pleasant and the uncomfortable. This can be unsettling at first. Without the presence of others, there is no one to mirror our thoughts or provide external reassurance. It is just us in our most honest and vulnerable state. However, this is exactly what makes solitude so powerful. It offers us the chance to truly get to know ourselves without the distractions of the outside world. In this space, we have the opportunity to connect with our true nature. We can reflect on our values, aspirations, and goals without being influenced by the opinions or expectations of others. In the absence of external validation, we begin to realize that we are enough, just as we are. In Buddhism, this practice of coming to terms with oneself is essential for achieving peace of mind. Through mindfulness and meditation, we cultivate a deeper awareness of our inner world, allowing us to observe our thoughts, emotions, and reactions without judgment. As we become more comfortable with the silence and stillness of solitude, we learn to appreciate the richness of our own inner experience. Over time, we find that we no longer need the constant reassurance or validation from others. We become self-sufficient in our emotional and mental well-being, able to find joy and contentment from within. Emotional resilience, strengthening the inner foundation. One of the greatest gifts that solitude offers is the cultivation of emotional resilience. When we are alone, we are not distracted by the opinions or emotions of others. We are free to process our own feelings without interference. This creates the opportunity to build emotional strength, as we learn to face our feelings directly rather than rely on others to soothe or validate us. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness helps us develop a balanced and resilient emotional state. Mindfulness teaches us to observe our emotions as they arise without getting caught up in them or reacting impulsively. Instead of running away from negative emotions like sadness, fear, or anger, we learn to sit with them, acknowledge them, and understand their true nature. Over time, we realize that our emotions are not permanent. They come and go like waves on the ocean. In solitude, we gain the space to allow these emotions to pass through us without being overwhelmed by them. This emotional resilience allows us to stand firm in our sense of self, no matter what external circumstances may arise. When we are comfortable being alone, we no longer depend on others to fulfill our emotional needs. We become the steady presence in our own lives, unshaken by the ups and downs of external situations. Instead of seeking validation from others, we learn to validate ourselves, understanding that our happiness and sense of worth come from within. Overcoming the fear of loneliness. Liberating ourselves from attachments. The fear of loneliness is often tied to our attachments, the beliefs, relationships, and expectations that we cling to for a sense of security. We may fear being alone because we believe that our happiness is dependent on being with others, or because we feel a sense of emptiness when we are without social interaction. These attachments create an illusion that we are incomplete without them. In Buddhism, attachment is seen as a root cause of suffering. The Buddha taught that clinging to anything, whether it's people, possessions, or even our own identity, leads to dissatisfaction. The more we depend on external sources for our sense of worth or happiness, the more vulnerable we become to pain and disappointment. Solitude is an antidote to this kind of attachment. When we spend time alone, we are forced to let go of these external dependencies and reconnect with our true, unchanging self. Overcoming the fear of loneliness is a process of liberation. It frees us from unhealthy attachments and relationships that drain our energy or keep us stuck in cycles of dependency. When we stop seeking validation or approval from others, we begin to experience a deep sense of freedom. We no longer feel bound by the expectations or judgments of others, and we can live our lives according to our own values and desires. Solitude becomes a practice of self-liberation, a way to let go of the illusions that keep us tied to external sources of validation. Discovering inner strength, the anchor within. In solitude, we begin to realize that we are not weak or incomplete. We are resilient and whole. The stillness of being alone allows us to tap into our inner strength, which has always been there, but may have been hidden beneath layers of distraction or external influence. Solitude helps us become our own anchor, grounding ourselves in the present moment and in our own inner wisdom. When we are alone, we have the opportunity to reflect on our past experiences, confront our fears, and connect with our deeper sense of purpose. We begin to see that we do not need to rely on others to feel strong or secure. Our inner strength comes from within. It is the quiet confidence that arises when we trust ourselves and our ability to navigate life's challenges. As we become more comfortable with our own presence, we learn to appreciate the peace that comes from solitude. We discover that being alone is not a state of emptiness, but a space where our true power can flourish. In this space, we can cultivate a deep sense of self-acceptance, resilience, and inner peace. We become unshaken by the absence of others because we realize that we are complete, just as we are. Conclusion: the transformative power of solitude. The fear of loneliness is something that many of us experience at some point in our lives. However, when viewed through the lens of Buddhism, this fear becomes an opportunity for personal growth, emotional resilience, and inner transformation. Solitude is not something to be feared. It is a gift that allows us to connect with ourselves, to confront our fears, and to realize our true strength. As we spend time alone, we learn to be comfortable in our own company, realizing that we are whole and complete on our own. We no longer seek external validation for our happiness, and we become emotionally resilient, capable of navigating life's challenges with confidence. Overcoming the fear of loneliness is liberating. It frees us from unhealthy attachments and allows us to experience the peace and strength that come from within. In solitude, we discover that our true power resides in our ability to stand firm, anchored in our own sense of self, unshaken by the absence of others. It is in solitude that we can distance ourselves from the influences of negative company, remove distractions, and connect with our deeper selves. It is in solitude that clarity emerges, peace takes root, and wisdom flourishes. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by the demands of social life, remember the value of solitude. Embrace it not as loneliness, but as a sacred space for personal transformation. Choose solitude over meaningless relationships, and in doing so, you will discover the immense power that comes from knowing yourself deeply and cultivating a life of inner peace and wisdom. In solitude, you find not emptiness, but boundless potential. 2. Spend time alone to know yourself better. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, we often find ourselves distracted by the constant noise of the outside world, whether it's the demands of work, the pressures of social expectations, or the endless stream of information we consume daily. We are constantly surrounded by others, engaged in conversations, and participating in social events, sometimes without ever stopping to ask ourselves, who am I really? In this fast-paced, interconnected society, it's easy to lose touch with our true selves. We may begin to define ourselves by what we do, by how others perceive us, or by the roles we play in society. Yet it is in solitude that we have the rare opportunity to reflect deeply on our inner world, to understand our desires, confront our fears, and most importantly, to discover who we truly are, beyond the noise and expectations of the world around us. Buddhism, with its profound emphasis on self-awareness and mindfulness, teaches us that the journey to wisdom and inner peace begins with the self. Knowing oneself truly and deeply is the foundation of all spiritual growth. When we spend time alone, free from external distractions, we open ourselves to the possibility of profound personal insight. Solitude becomes not an escape from the world, but a means of returning to the core of who we are. In this quiet space, we can reflect on our lives, question our motivations, and begin to peel away the layers of conditioning that have shaped our thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Through this process of introspection, we gain clarity, wisdom, and peace. The power of solitude in understanding the self. Solitude has a unique power. It gives us the space to step away from the external world and reconnect with our internal world. When we are alone, there are no distractions, no external voices telling us who we should be or how we should act. We are left with nothing but our thoughts, our feelings, and our awareness. It is in this space of stillness that we can begin to see ourselves more clearly. In a world that constantly demands our attention, solitude offers a sanctuary for self-reflection. It allows us to examine our desires, what we truly want in life, beyond the superficial goals or societal expectations we often chase. It provides the opportunity to look at our strengths, the qualities and talents we may have overlooked or taken for granted. But perhaps most importantly, solitude allows us to confront our fears, the insecurities, anxieties, and doubts that often go unnoticed in the noise of our daily lives. In Buddhism, this journey of self-discovery is seen as a key to liberation. The Buddha taught that we must understand the nature of the self in order to transcend the suffering caused by attachment, desire, and ignorance. The more we know ourselves, the less we are ruled by our unconscious impulses or conditioned reactions. Instead of being driven by external circumstances, we can respond to life from a place of awareness, clarity, and inner peace. Reflection and awareness. The path to true understanding. One of the greatest gifts that solitude provides is the opportunity to question our thoughts and motivations. We live much of our lives on autopilot, reacting to situations without fully understanding why we do so. Why do we feel a certain way about something? Why do we desire certain things or fear others? In solitude, we can slow down enough to ask these questions and look within for the answers. Meditation is a powerful tool for this kind of self-inquiry. When we sit in stillness, we begin to observe our thoughts without judgment. We can see how our mind jumps from one thought to the next, often following patterns that have been ingrained in us over many years. These patterns, shaped by our upbringing, culture, and past experiences, can often obscure the truth of who we are. In solitude, particularly through the practice of meditation, we learn to observe these thoughts with detachment. We can witness them as passing phenomena rather than identifying with them as our true selves. This process of reflection and observation leads to greater awareness. When we become aware of our thoughts, emotions, and conditioned responses, we begin to unravel the layers that have shaped our identity. We start to realize that many of our beliefs and fears are not inherent to us. but have been learned or imposed upon us by society, family, or experiences. This realization is liberating. We begin to see that we are not defined by our thoughts, fears, or past mistakes. We are something deeper, a consciousness that is capable of transformation, growth, and healing. Unraveling conditioned beliefs. As we spend more time in solitude, we begin to notice the deeply ingrained beliefs and assumptions that guide our lives. These beliefs may have been formed in childhood or over years of social conditioning. They often shaped the way we view ourselves, others, and the world at large. Some of these beliefs may serve us well, but many are limiting or even harmful. In solitude, we are able to examine these beliefs critically, asking ourselves whether they are true, whether they reflect our authentic self, and whether they align with the life we want to create. For example, we may realize that we have been carrying the belief that we are not good enough, or that we must constantly prove our worth to others. We may discover that we have been living in fear of rejection or failure, which has kept us from pursuing our true passions. These beliefs, often rooted in childhood experiences or societal pressures, can hold us back from experiencing the fullness of life. When we engage in self-reflection, we begin to see these beliefs for what they are, products of the mind, not absolute truths. Through this process of inquiry, we can begin to let go of these limiting beliefs and replace them with more empowering ones. As we release old, outdated patterns of thinking, we make room for new possibilities and new ways of being. This process is ongoing, and the more we spend time in solitude, the more we continue to uncover and transform the beliefs that no longer serve us. The answers lie within. One of the most profound realizations that comes from spending time alone is that the answers to many of life's questions already reside within us. We often look for guidance from external sources, books, teachers, friends, or gurus, believing that they have the wisdom we need to navigate life. While external guidance can be helpful, true wisdom is not something that can be found outside of ourselves. It is already present within us, waiting to be uncovered. In Buddhism, the concept of inner wisdom, or Buddha nature, suggests that each of us has an innate understanding of the nature of reality, of our own true nature, and of the path to peace. However, this wisdom is often clouded by our attachments, desires, and distractions. When we spend time in solitude, we create the space for this wisdom to emerge. Through meditation, contemplation, and quiet reflection, we begin to access the deep well of knowledge that lies within us. We may not always have clear answers immediately, but through consistent introspection, the clarity we seek begins to unfold. The beauty of this process is that it allows us to trust ourselves. Instead of looking outside for answers, we start to trust our intuition, our inner voice. We realize that we have the capacity to make wise decisions, to choose a path that aligns with our true values, and to live a life that is authentic and fulfilling. Clarity and peace through solitude. As we continue on this journey of self-discovery, we begin to experience a profound sense of clarity. With each moment spent in solitude, we clear away the mental clutter and gain a clearer understanding of who we are and what we want. We begin to see life through a different lens, one that is free from the biases and distractions that often cloud our judgment. This clarity brings peace. As we become more in tune with our true selves, we let go of the need for approval from others. We no longer feel the pressure to live up to external expectations. Instead, we find peace in the knowledge that we are enough, just as we are. This peace is not dependent on external circumstances, but arises from a deep inner understanding of ourselves. Conclusion: the transformative power of solitude. The journey of self-awareness is not a quick or easy one, but it is a deeply rewarding one. Through solitude, we begin to uncover the layers of our mind, question our beliefs, and confront our fears. In this space, we can hear the whispers of our inner wisdom and trust that the answers to life's most important questions lie within us. Solitude is not just about being alone. It is about being with ourselves, fully present and open to the truth of who we are. It is in these quiet moments that we find clarity, wisdom, and inner peace. The more we embrace solitude, the more we understand ourselves, and the closer we come to experiencing the peace and freedom that comes from living authentically. In solitude, we find our true nature, and from that place of understanding, we can navigate life with greater wisdom, compassion, and ease. 4. Solitude is a space for self-discovery. In a world filled with constant noise, distractions, and the ever-present opinions of others, finding time to be alone may seem like a luxury or even a challenge. However, when approached with intention, solitude becomes a sacred space, a refuge where we can reconnect with our true selves. It is in these quiet moments, free from the demands and expectations of the outside world, that we are given the opportunity to reflect deeply, to explore our inner world, and to rediscover our potential. Buddhism teaches that true self-discovery is not something that can be found in the external world, but must come from within. When we retreat into solitude, we create the conditions necessary for profound personal growth. Without the noise of others' voices, judgments, or expectations, we are free to tune into our own thoughts, feelings, and desires. In this space of stillness, we begin to uncover aspects of ourselves that may have been obscured by the busyness and chaos of daily life. It is a powerful practice, one that allows us to explore our true nature and, in doing so, unlock the full potential within us. Solitude as a gateway to self-understanding. The very act of seeking solitude is a step towards self-awareness. In Buddhism, solitude is not seen as something to be feared or avoided, but as a path to enlightenment and wisdom. It is a space where we can go beyond the surface of our daily concerns and delve into the deeper layers of our existence. Without the constant pull of external distractions, we are able to step back and gain a clearer perspective on our lives. Buddha taught that understanding the nature of the self is the key to liberation from suffering. In solitude, we are given the opportunity to explore the questions that lie at the heart of our existence. Who am I? What do I truly want? What are the patterns of thought and behavior that define me? These are questions that can only be answered when we quiet the external noise and turn our attention inward. By embracing solitude, we free ourselves from the clutter of external influences, allowing our own inner wisdom to rise to the surface. In this space of quiet reflection, we begin to understand our thoughts and emotions more clearly. We become aware of the mental and emotional patterns that govern our lives, patterns that often arise from past experiences, cultural conditioning, or the expectations placed on us by society. By observing these patterns, we can begin to make conscious choices about who we want to be, rather than simply reacting out of habit. Solitude gives us the chance to reset, to realign with our true nature, and embrace a life that is more authentic and in tune with our inner truth. Discovering your strengths and passions. As we deepen our relationship with ourselves in solitude, we begin to uncover our hidden strengths, talents, and passions. Life often moves at such a fast pace that we may forget to listen to the whispers of our heart, the desires and interests that lie deep within us. In the stillness of solitude, these quiet yearnings can be heard clearly. Whether it's a creative passion, a career path we've longed to pursue, or a cause that stirs our soul, solitude helps us reconnect with what truly brings us joy and fulfillment. Buddhism encourages the practice of right livelihood, the idea that our work and actions should be in harmony with our values and contribute to our spiritual growth. To discover this alignment, we must first look inward and ask ourselves what truly matters. What are the passions that make us feel alive? What activities or pursuits make us feel a deep sense of purpose? These questions can only be explored in the quiet space of solitude, free from the distractions of the world. In solitude, we are also able to confront our fears and doubts, the inner voices that tell us we are not good enough or that our dreams are unrealistic. Without the influence of others' opinions or the pressure of comparison, we begin to recognize these voices for what they are, limiting beliefs that hold us back from reaching our full potential. Through the practice of mindfulness, a core Buddhist teaching, we can learn to observe these thoughts without judgment, allowing them to pass by like clouds in the sky. This ability to see our fears clearly without becoming consumed by them is an essential step in discovering our true strengths and passions. Recalibrating your life and realigning with your values. Solitude offers a unique opportunity to recalibrate our lives, to take stock of where we are, where we've been, and where we want to go. In the rush of daily life, it's easy to become swept up in the demands of work, family, and society, often losing sight of our deeper values and long-term goals. But when we step away from the noise, we can regain clarity and focus. In solitude, we can examine the choices we've made and the paths we've taken. Are these choices in alignment with our true values? Do they reflect the person we want to become? Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of living a life of right intention, making choices that are guided by wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness. To make these kinds of choices, we must first have a clear sense of who we are and what we truly want. By spending time alone, we create the space to realign our goals with our deepest desires. We can reflect on what truly brings us happiness, not the superficial goals that society might set for us, but the things that bring fulfillment to our soul. Whether it's nurturing meaningful relationships, pursuing a passion project, or living a life of service, solitude allows us to reconnect with our core values and set intentions that are true to who we are. This realignment is not about following a specific formula or reaching a predetermined destination. It's about being true to our authentic selves and creating a life that feels deeply fulfilling. Self-acceptance. The freedom to be your truest self. One of the most profound gifts that solitude offers is the opportunity to practice self-acceptance. In a world that often values achievement, appearance, and outward success, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-judgment. We may feel that we are not enough, that we must constantly prove ourselves to be worthy of love and respect. But in the space of solitude, we can begin to let go of these unrealistic expectations and embrace ourselves as we are, flaws, imperfections, and all. In Buddhism, the practice of self-compassion is central to the path of awakening. Buddha taught that we should extend the same kindness to ourselves as we do to others. Solitude provides the ideal environment for cultivating this compassion. When we are alone, we are not distracted by the opinions of others, and we can focus on nurturing a kind and loving relationship with ourselves. This is not about perfection or self-criticism. It's about accepting ourselves fully, as we are, in all our complexity. Through self-acceptance, we free ourselves from the need for external validation. We no longer seek approval from others to feel worthy, and we can begin to live authentically. In solitude, we learn that our true power comes not from how others perceive us, but from our own inner sense of worth and purpose. As we embrace who we are, we open the door to deeper peace and greater personal growth. We no longer need to prove ourselves, we simply need to be ourselves. The journey to inner peace and personal growth, solitude, is not merely about being physically alone. It is about creating a space where inner peace can flourish. In the quiet of solitude, we come to terms with our own thoughts, emotions, and experiences, and we begin to heal the wounds that have been left unresolved. As we let go of the need for external approval and validation, we make room for the inner peace that comes from self-acceptance and clarity. This peace is not fleeting or conditional. It is rooted in the understanding that we are complete in ourselves. The more we spend time in solitude, the more we realize that true fulfillment does not come from external achievements or relationships, but from the deep connection we cultivate with our own hearts and minds. Through this journey of self-discovery, we grow not only in wisdom, but also in compassion and strength. Ultimately, solitude is a transformative practice, a sacred space where we can explore our true nature, realign with our deepest values, and reconnect with the passions that bring us joy. In this quiet space, we find the freedom to be our truest selves, liberated from the constraints of external expectations. The journey may not always be easy, but it is one that leads to profound inner peace, personal growth, and a life that is deeply fulfilling. Solitude, in the end, becomes not just a retreat from the world, but a journey back to our most authentic self. The strength of independence. Rely on yourself. At the heart of Buddhist philosophy is the profound idea of self-reliance, an understanding that your well-being, happiness, and personal growth are ultimately your own responsibility. While this concept may initially seem daunting in a world that often places emphasis on external validation and support, Buddhism teaches that true freedom and peace arise when we learn to rely on ourselves, cultivating inner strength and wisdom. Solitude is one of the most powerful ways to connect with this core principle of self-reliance. When we spend time alone, free from the constant influence of external distractions, opinions, and expectations, we begin to realize just how capable we are of navigating life's challenges on our own. In this quiet space, we discover that the answers to many of our most pressing questions already lie within us, waiting to be uncovered through introspection, mindfulness, and self-awareness. Solitude, a path to self-discovery and inner strength. In a world that values constant social interaction, multitasking, and outward success, solitude can seem counterintuitive. However, when we step away from the noise and pressures of daily life, we create a space for self-reflection and growth. Solitude allows us to reconnect with our inner selves, giving us the time and clarity to evaluate our thoughts, emotions, and reactions to the world around us. Buddhism teaches that through mindfulness and meditation, we can learn to observe our thoughts without judgment, gradually uncovering our true nature and inner wisdom. This process of self-inquiry is essential for developing self-reliance, as it allows us to gain a deeper understanding of our strengths and weaknesses, our fears and desires, and the patterns of behavior that influence our lives. In solitude, we realize that we are not defined by external circumstances or the opinions of others. We discover that our ability to navigate life's challenges doesn't come from seeking approval or validation from others, but from cultivating inner wisdom and self-compassion. This realization is empowering, as it shifts the focus away from seeking external sources of strength and instead directs it toward the limitless resources within. The empowerment of self-reliance, facing life's challenges with confidence. One of the most transformative aspects of solitude is the way it teaches us to face challenges with resilience and confidence. When we are alone, there is no one else to rely on but ourselves. In these moments, we are forced to confront life's difficulties head-on, without distractions or the comfort of external support. This is where true self-reliance begins to take shape. Initially, this can feel intimidating. In times of crisis or hardship, it is natural to want to turn to others for advice, comfort, or reassurance. However, solitude allows us to build the mental and emotional fortitude needed to face difficulties without always needing someone else to provide answers or solutions. As we spend more time reflecting and meditating, we begin to trust in our own ability to navigate life's uncertainties. This process of relying on ourselves fosters resilience. We begin to see that, though external circumstances may be beyond our control, our response to them is entirely within our power. In moments of stress or challenge, we learn to draw from our inner reserves of strength, patience, and clarity. We trust that, no matter what happens, we have the resources within ourselves to face the situation and move forward. Building emotional resilience. The inner strength to cope. Emotional resilience is a crucial component of self-reliance. It is the ability to stay grounded and composed in the face of adversity. In Buddhist practice, cultivating emotional resilience is seen as essential for leading a peaceful and fulfilling life. Through meditation and mindfulness, we develop the ability to sit with difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them. We learn to observe our feelings from a place of detachment, recognizing that emotions are temporary and that we have the capacity to manage them. Solitude plays a key role in this process. When we are alone, there is no external distraction or interference, allowing us to connect more deeply with our emotions. Instead of running from our feelings or relying on others to help us process them, we learn to sit with them, accept them, and understand their root causes. Over time, this builds emotional strength, making us less reactive and more balanced in our responses to life's challenges. When we learn to be emotionally self-reliant, we no longer need to rely on others for validation or approval. We come to realize that our emotional well-being is our responsibility, and that we have the tools and wisdom within us to navigate even the most difficult emotional terrain. This realization is empowering. It shifts our focus from external circumstances to the inner peace and strength that come from understanding and accepting ourselves. Letting go of the need for external validation. A significant aspect of self-reliance is letting go of the constant need for external validation. Many of us are conditioned from a young age to seek approval from others, whether it's from our parents, peers, or society at large. We often look to others for reassurance, affirmation, and praise, believing that our worth is defined by their opinions. However, in solitude, we come to understand that true self-worth is not dependent on the validation of others. Buddhism teaches that the key to inner peace and contentment lies in recognizing that we are inherently worthy, regardless of external opinions or accomplishments. By spending time alone and reflecting on our own thoughts and feelings, we realize that our value comes from within and that we don't need to prove ourselves to anyone. This realization is freeing. It allows us to stop seeking approval and start living authentically, guided by our own values and desires. We no longer feel the constant pressure to conform to others' expectations, and we begin to make decisions based on what feels true to us, not what will earn us praise or acceptance. Self-reliance empowers us to stand firm in our beliefs, regardless of whether others agree or support us. Embracing your inner strength. The freedom of self-reliance. Self-reliance is not about isolation or shutting others out of our lives. Rather, it is about understanding that our true source of strength lies within. In solitude, we discover that we are capable of handling life's challenges without depending on others for answers. This doesn't mean we should reject help or support when needed, but it does mean that we are no longer defined by our dependence on others. As we cultivate self-reliance, we begin to feel a deep sense of empowerment. We trust ourselves and our ability to make choices that align with our values and aspirations. We understand that, while external support can be helpful, the ultimate source of strength and wisdom lies within our own hearts and minds. This inner strength allows us to approach life with greater confidence and clarity. We no longer feel like victims of circumstance, waiting for someone to rescue us or make things better. Instead, we take responsibility for our own happiness, well-being, and growth. We become the architects of our own lives, trusting that we have the capacity to create the life we desire, even in the face of obstacles or setbacks. The balance of independence and connection. While Buddhism encourages self-reliance, it also teaches the importance of interconnectedness and compassion. Self-reliance does not mean that we should isolate ourselves from others or refuse help when it is needed. Instead, it means that we understand the importance of standing on our own feet, while also embracing the support and love of others when appropriate. True self-reliance is the balance between independence and connection. It is knowing when to lean on others for guidance or support, and when to trust in our own abilities to find solutions. In this balance, we find true strength, an inner strength that is not dependent on others, but that allows us to engage with the world from a place of deep authenticity and self-assurance. Conclusion: the empowering path of self-reliance. The journey toward self-reliance is a deeply empowering one. It teaches us that we are capable of facing life's challenges on our own, relying on our own wisdom and inner strength to navigate difficult situations. Solitude offers the perfect environment for cultivating this self-reliance, as it provides the space for reflection, self-discovery, and emotional resilience. As we spend more time alone, we begin to trust ourselves more fully, realizing that we don't need to seek external validation or support in order to feel worthy or capable. Our true source of strength comes from within, and by embracing this inner power, we unlock the potential for personal growth, emotional freedom, and inner peace. Self-reliance is not about rejecting others, but about understanding that we are whole and complete on our own, and that we have the ability to create the life we desire from the inside out. Through solitude and self-reflection, we become empowered to face whatever comes our way with confidence, resilience, and grace. 6. Embrace self-companionship. You are enough. Self-companionship, the path to true happiness and inner peace. In a world that constantly encourages us to seek validation from others, whether through social approval, relationships, or material success, it can be easy to forget a simple yet profound truth. You are enough, just as you are. This fundamental teaching in Buddhism invites us to pause and reflect on our worth, not based on what others think of us, but on the intrinsic value we already possess within. The challenge is learning to embrace and cultivate this self-awareness, which is where the practice of self-companionship becomes essential. Self-companionship is not simply about spending time alone. It is about learning to enjoy your own company, to be at peace with who you are, and to find contentment within yourself. In this process, you begin to build a deep and loving relationship with yourself. You learn to be your own best friend, your own source of love, and your own source of happiness. This inner shift, from seeking approval and validation from others to accepting yourself fully, is the cornerstone of emotional well-being and personal growth. The essence of self-companionship. To truly understand self-companionship, one must first appreciate the significance of self-awareness. In a world that often pushes us to conform to societal standards or live up to the expectations of those around us, solitude becomes a powerful tool for introspection. In doing so, we not only free ourselves from the pressures of societal expectations, but also empower ourselves to walk a path that is authentically our own. The Buddha's teachings remind us that it is not about fitting into the mold that others have created for us, but about finding and cultivating the strength that lies in being true to our own nature. The journey to self-discovery. To truly value your individuality, it is essential to first understand what it means to be an individual. Being an individual means embracing who you are without the need to fit into predefined societal molds. In a world where trends, social media, and popular culture dictate much of what is considered acceptable or desirable, the power of standing apart from these external pressures cannot be overstated. When you spend time alone, free from the influence of others, you give yourself the opportunity to reconnect with your authentic self. Solitude provides clarity. In these quiet moments, you can listen to your own thoughts, reflect on your desires, and gain insight into what truly matters to you. As you retreat from the distractions and external expectations of the world, you start to hear your own inner voice more clearly. This is the foundation of self-awareness, the ability to recognize your own values, passions, and unique qualities without distortion. Through this practice of introspection, you begin to see yourself as separate from the roles and labels that society might impose on you. Whether these roles are defined by your job, your family, or social circles, they often come with predefined expectations. In solitude, you have the space to step outside these roles and simply be yourself. In this space, you can honor your own values and beliefs, free from the judgment of others. It is in these moments that your true nature begins to surface, unencumbered by the pressure to conform. Embracing uniqueness. The power of self-acceptance. One of the greatest gifts of valuing your individuality is the acceptance of who you are. In a world that often pushes us to seek validation through external accomplishments, whether career success, material wealth, or social recognition, Buddhism reminds us that true happiness does not come from fitting in, but from accepting ourselves as we are. To value your individuality means acknowledging that you are not meant to be like everyone else, and that this difference is your strength, not something to be hidden or minimized. This realization can be incredibly empowering. It frees you from the need to compare yourself constantly to others or seek approval from the outside world. Instead, you begin to trust your own judgment, relying on your inner wisdom to guide your decisions. This shift in mindset is essential for cultivating self-confidence, as it allows you to live a life that is true to your personal truth, rather than one that is dictated by the expectations of others. When you embrace your individuality, you come to realize that you are enough as you are. You do not need to mold yourself into someone else's idea of success or happiness. Your worth is intrinsic, not tied to external achievements or other people's opinions of you. This acceptance of self is the first step towards cultivating a life of fulfillment and contentment. It is an act of honoring your own uniqueness, trusting that your journey is valuable simply because it is your own. The courage to stand alone. Another aspect of valuing your individuality is having the courage to stand alone when necessary. In life, there will always be moments when your values, beliefs, or decisions do not align with those around you. These moments can be challenging, as they often bring a sense of isolation or fear of judgment. Yet Buddhism teaches us that true strength comes from within, and part of that strength lies in our ability to remain authentic, even when it's uncomfortable. In these situations, it's essential to stand firm in your truth, even if it means going against the grain. When you are true to yourself, even in the face of opposition or criticism, you cultivate a sense of personal integrity and inner strength. This does not mean rejecting the wisdom or opinions of others, but rather trusting your own discernment and making choices that align with your core values and authentic desires. As you grow in your ability to honor your individuality, you develop the emotional resilience needed to handle situations where you may feel misunderstood or unsupported. You learn to remain grounded in who you are, regardless of external pressures. This emotional strength is a direct result of the inner peace that comes from knowing and accepting yourself. Buddhism teaches that true freedom is found when we are able to detach from the need to please others and live in accordance with our own values and aspirations. The freedom to create your own path. When you value your individuality, you gain the freedom to create a life that is uniquely yours. Instead of following the prescribed paths that society sets before you, paths defined by social expectations, financial success, or the approval of others, you are free to chart your own course. You have the ability to make choices that reflect your true desires, not based on societal pressure or fear of rejection. This sense of personal freedom is one of the greatest gifts of embracing your individuality. You no longer feel bound by the limits that others impose on you. You are empowered to pursue your passions, make decisions that align with your purpose, and shape your destiny according to your own vision. The Buddha's teachings remind us that the path to enlightenment and true happiness is not a path defined by others, but one that we carve for ourselves. This kind of freedom requires courage, the courage to step away from societal expectations, to go against the tide when necessary, and to create a life that resonates with your soul. When you embrace this freedom, you discover that your potential is limitless, as it is rooted in your authentic self. Valuing individuality in relationships. While valuing your individuality is a personal journey, it also has profound implications for your relationships with others. Embracing your individuality allows you to engage with others from a place of authenticity, rather than seeking approval or molding yourself to fit the expectations of others. You engage in relationships where mutual respect and understanding can flourish. When you honor your own individuality, you give others the permission to do the same. You stop pretending to be someone you are not, and as a result, you attract relationships that are grounded in genuine connection. People are naturally drawn to authenticity, and when you embrace who you are, you invite others to do the same. This leads to deeper, more meaningful connections, where both parties feel seen and valued for their true selves. Moreover, embracing your individuality also enables you to approach relationships without the need for dependence or validation. You no longer enter relationships out of fear of being alone or the need to complete yourself. Instead, you come together with others because you genuinely enjoy their company and value the unique contributions they bring to your life. This shift allows relationships to thrive based on mutual appreciation and respect, rather than on the need to fit into each other's expectations. The power of your unique perspective. One of the most beautiful aspects of valuing your individuality is recognizing that your unique perspective and experiences bring something of immense value to the world. Each person's journey is different, and it is through these individual experiences that we gain our insights, our wisdom, and our ability to contribute meaningfully to society. When you embrace your individuality, you realize that your voice, your ideas, and your contributions have the potential to make a difference simply because they are uniquely yours. Rather than imitating others or trying to conform to popular trends, you begin to express yourself authentically and with confidence. Your creativity, your passions, and your values are all important pieces of the puzzle that make up the fabric of humanity. By embracing your individuality, you contribute to the richness of the world and inspire others to do the same. The beauty of living authentically. In the end, valuing the power of being an individual is about embracing the beauty of your own journey. It's about recognizing that your life path, with all its twists and turns, is uniquely yours, and that it is just as valuable as anyone else's. Buddhism teaches us that enlightenment comes not through conformity, but through self-realization, through understanding who we truly are and living in alignment with our own nature. When you embrace your individuality, you experience a sense of freedom and empowerment that allows you to live a life of purpose, fulfillment, and joy. You no longer seek validation or approval from others because you know that your worth is intrinsic. Your individuality becomes your greatest source of strength, guiding you towards a life that is aligned with your truth. By honoring your individuality, you become a beacon of authenticity in a world that often values conformity. In doing so, you inspire others to embrace their own uniqueness, contributing to a world where diversity of thought, creativity, and individual expression are celebrated. In the end, the power of being an individual lies not in standing apart from others, but in contributing your true self to the collective whole. When you honor who you truly are, you enrich not only your life, but also the lives of those around you. One of the greatest gifts Buddhism offers is the joy of being with yourself. In a world that often encourages us to seek external validation or distractions, learning to love your own company is a transformative practice. When you spend time alone, you are gifted the opportunity to get to know yourself in a deeper, more intimate way. The distractions of external influences fade, and you are left to confront your own thoughts, feelings, and desires. It's here, in the quiet moments of solitude, that your true self emerges. Buddhism teaches that true happiness and peace are not external pursuits, but internal discoveries. In solitude, we are free from the pressure to perform, to please, or to live up to anyone else's ideals. You come to realize that your thoughts, your feelings, and your desires are all valid. They are a reflection of your unique experiences and the essence of who you are. Over time, this self-awareness cultivates a deeper connection with yourself, allowing you to understand not just what you want, but why you want it, and how your inner world shapes your external reality. The freedom of self-acceptance. One of the most liberating aspects of self-companionship is learning to accept yourself, imperfections, and all. In a society that often equates worth with success, beauty, or the approval of others, it can be challenging to embrace our imperfections. Yet, the practice of self-compassion, treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would offer a close friend, is a cornerstone of Buddhism. This means accepting your flaws without judgment, acknowledging your mistakes without harsh criticism, and celebrating your strengths without ego. Self-companionship teaches you to love yourself unconditionally. When you make a mistake, instead of punishing yourself, you practice forgiveness and compassion. You acknowledge your humanity, knowing that imperfections are not weaknesses, but opportunities for growth. This kind of acceptance frees you from the pressure of constantly measuring up to external standards, allowing you to live more authentically and with greater peace of mind. True self-acceptance involves recognizing that you are inherently worthy, regardless of your external achievements or what others may think of you. It is about releasing the need for external validation and instead finding worth in your own presence. In solitude, you begin to see that you don't need others to complete you. You are already whole. You begin to cultivate a sense of inner peace that is not dependent on the approval of others, but rooted in the deep understanding that you are enough, just as you are. The power of self-companionship in building confidence. As you grow in your relationship with yourself, you begin to feel more empowered and confident. Self-companionship is not about isolating yourself from others. Rather, it is about discovering your own strength and cultivating emotional independence. When you stop seeking constant approval and validation from others, you begin to feel a sense of inner assurance that radiates outward. This newfound confidence doesn't come from a place of arrogance or pride, but from a solid foundation of self-trust. You learn to make decisions based on your own values and desires rather than on what will please others or earn you approval. In this way, self-companionship allows you to navigate life with a greater sense of clarity and self-assurance, knowing that your worth is not tied to the opinions or judgments of others. Solitude, the space for joy and fulfillment. A common misconception is that being alone equates to loneliness. In reality, there is a profound difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Loneliness arises from a sense of disconnection or lack of fulfillment, often driven by the need for external validation. On the other hand, solitude, when embraced with the right mindset, becomes a nurturing space for personal growth and self-discovery. When you cultivate self-companionship, you learn to find joy in solitude. You begin to appreciate the stillness that comes with being alone, recognizing that it is not a void to be filled, but a rich space for reflection, creativity, and self-expression. The quiet moments you spend alone offer you the chance to explore your passions, reconnect with your inner desires, and discover new interests that bring you fulfillment. Whether it's reading, writing, meditating, or simply taking a walk, these activities allow you to deepen your connection with yourself. As you learn to enjoy your own company, you begin to realize that happiness doesn't come from external sources, whether that be the validation of others, material success, or romantic relationships, but from within. The more you embrace solitude, the more you realize that the source of your joy lies in the relationship you have with yourself. Emotional resilience through self-companionship. One of the most profound benefits of self-companionship is its ability to build emotional resilience. One of the most profound benefits of self-companionship is its ability to build emotional resilience. When you are content with who you are, when your sense of worth is rooted in self-acceptance rather than external approval, you develop the emotional strength to navigate life's ups and downs with grace. Buddhism teaches that life is full of impermanence and change. The ability to accept and adapt to these fluctuations with equanimity is a sign of inner peace. Through self-companionship, you learn to manage your emotions in a healthy way. Rather than being swept away by the tide of external circumstances, you develop an inner calm that allows you to respond to challenges with clarity and resilience. When you no longer depend on others for emotional support or validation, you cultivate the inner resources needed to face difficult situations. You realize that your emotional well-being is your responsibility and that you have the power to handle whatever comes your way. This emotional independence provides a strong foundation for facing life's challenges with confidence and peace of mind. Authentic relationships. Connecting from a place of wholeness. As you embrace self-companionship and become more confident in who you are, you also become capable of forming authentic relationships with others. When you no longer enter relationships out of neediness or fear of being alone, you are free to connect with others from a place of genuine love, respect, and mutual understanding. In relationships, you no longer seek to be completed by another person. Instead, you enter partnerships from a place of wholeness, knowing that your sense of fulfillment and self-worth does not depend on anyone else. This shift in perspective leads to healthier, more balanced relationships, where both individuals can thrive independently and together. The more you practice self-companionship, the less likely you are to settle for relationships that drain your energy or undermine your self-esteem. Instead, you naturally attract relationships that nurture your growth and well-being. The gift of self-love and self-worth. Perhaps the most powerful gift that self-companionship offers is the realization that you are enough. This truth becomes the foundation of everything you do, your relationships, your career, your personal endeavors, because it frees you from the constant pressure to prove yourself to others. When you understand your inherent worth, you no longer seek happiness in external sources. You become self-sufficient, emotionally stable, and resilient in the face of life's challenges. True contentment comes from knowing that you are already whole. You no longer need to search for external sources of happiness because you have cultivated a deep sense of inner peace and self-love. It is this inner peace that becomes your anchor, your constant source of strength, regardless of what's happening around you. The journey towards self-companionship. The journey to self-companionship is not always easy. It requires introspection, patience, and a willingness to confront your fears and insecurities. But every step you take toward embracing yourself, just as you are, brings you closer to the peace and fulfillment that come from within. In a world that constantly demands more from you, self-companionship offers a sanctuary, a place where you can be fully present with yourself, knowing that you are enough. This journey of self-discovery and self-love is the key to living a life rooted in peace, joy, and confidence. Through self-companionship, you unlock the true happiness that lies within, a happiness that is not contingent on anyone or anything else, but on your relationship with your most authentic self. In the end, you are enough. And when you embrace that truth, the world around you will reflect that same peace and fulfillment. Self-companionship becomes not just a practice, but a way of life, one that leads to lasting joy, contentment, and the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you are truly enough, just as you are. 7. Value the power of being an individual. The power of being an individual, a Buddhist perspective on authenticity and self-value. In a world that often prioritizes conformity, societal norms, and the pursuit of collective ideals, it can be easy to lose sight of the importance of being an individual. From a young age, we are taught to adhere to certain expectations, to fit into predefined molds that are shaped by the culture, family, or community around us. However, Buddhism offers a refreshing perspective that celebrates individuality and encourages us to embrace our unique nature. It teaches us that each of us is a distinct being, with our own set of talents, strengths, challenges, and wisdom, something that should be cherished, not suppressed. The journey to valuing your individuality is a deeply personal one. It is a practice that requires us to step back from the noise of the world and reconnect with our true selves. It's a reminder that solitude isn't something to fear or avoid, but a space for deep growth, peace, and joy. In Buddhism, solitude is viewed as a sacred space where we can reconnect with our true selves, free from the noise and distractions of the world. It is in these moments of quiet that we can begin to hear the whispers of our inner wisdom. Being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being present with your own thoughts, your own feelings, and your own heart. When you embrace your own company, you open the door to self-discovery, inner peace, and spiritual growth. In solitude, you can reflect on your desires, your fears, and your true passions without the influence of others. This process of introspection brings clarity, helping you align your life with your values and purpose. It's a space where you can reconnect with the present moment, letting go of external pressures and embracing the stillness within. The joy of being with yourself is about cultivating a sense of fulfillment that comes from within, not from external sources. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you begin to understand that you are enough, just as you are. This realization is a profound source of inner peace and happiness. Thank you for watching. If this message resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more insights into the wisdom of Buddhism. I'd love to hear from you. How do you find joy in your own company? Let's inspire each other with your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.